Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for snapping at my sister-in-law over my husband? Husband J, 28 male, me, 28F, together for 10 years, married for 7. J and I met in our last year of high school and got married when we were 21. Our families were at first concerned that we were marrying so young, but they were still happy for us regardless. I have always worked in the food industry and am currently second in charge of a bakery. Jay works as a train driver. The employees are given a lot of free rein to come up with new baked goods to sell in the store, which I absolutely love. As part of that, Jay is usually the guinea pig for the new recipes and as a result, has steadily gained weight over the last few years. Especially during the pandemic where his hours were reduced. I have always told him how sexy he looks with the bigger belly, and he has said that he is comfortable with his body. About 6 months ago, I found out I was pregnant with our first child. We were beyond excited and recently had a baby shower with both our families last weekend. Everything was going great until his older sister Beth, 34F, made a few rude wisecracks at Jay's weight. Jay has always had a rough time with Beth even as a child. She is a tough, tomboy personality who doesn't care what other people think of her. Polar opposite of Jay essentially. He was visibly uncomfortable, so I said, if she wants to make rude comments she should leave. She snapped back at me saying Jay is her brother and she can say whatever she likes to him. It's a free country. She also accused me of intentionally fattening up Jay. To which I got upset and said if you keep this up you might not be a part of your niece's life. Jay held my hand and whispered for me to calm down for the baby's sake, while his mom took Beth to the side and spoke to her, after which she quickly left. Jay and I were a little rattled, but were relieved when the rest of his family said that Beth has always been difficult to deal with and that the dad bod suited Jay really well. His mom even saying to him you have a great wife who won't let you go hungry. Our friends and families mostly agree with my stance on threatening to cut Beth out of our daughter's life, but there's a few people who said I went too far. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA. She's absolutely right that she's free to say whatever she wants, but that doesn't mean she's free from the consequences of her words. Right there. You can say whatever you want, and people will react whatever way they want. If you say something hurtful or mean, don't be surprised when the door hits you in the ass on your way out. It's a free country JFC. I'm so tired of this being misused. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences. Repeat after me. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences. You ain't the gooby RMENT. She can learn to be civil or suck it. Your man's body image and your relationship with respect to it are his and your business alone, respectively, not the a-hole. Lol. If freedom of speech meant freedom from consequences, every restaurant and retail employee on the planet would tell customers to go F themselves. Am I the antagonist for refusing to pick up my EX's stepdaughter? I, 37F, had one child with my ex-husband, Matt, 38 male. Madison, 16F. Every summer, she goes away to a sleepaway camp for all of July and half of August. This year, Matt's stepdaughter, Jenna, 14F, decided she wants to go away to camp as well. And as far as I'm concerned, Madison is fine with that. Matt's new wife is a couple months pregnant and is due in August, most likely before the camp is over. But she will most likely still be recovering as her pregnancy is apparently very difficult. Matt asked if I can pick both Madison and Jenna up from camp in case of an emergency with the pregnancy or possibly the baby. Madison does not live with me due to an issue with my fiancé and her, but I told him I can try to find a way to pick up Madison. However, Jenna is not my responsibility and would have to find her own way home. The camp is a couple hours away but nothing too far. His wife called and said I was being selfish as she can't leave one child there while taking the other. It's incredibly rude and shows I'm still bitter that he moved on. After that blatant disrespect I hung up and told Matt that he would have to pick up both girls. I'm not helping those people with anything. My daughter is refusing to talk to me and my mother says I'm being selfish. However, my fiancé said my feelings are justified, so I'm conflicted. Now for the top comments. AITA, and it's no wonder Madison lives with her dad and stepmother. If you allow your new partner and guests to do things that make her feel uncomfortable in her own home, well, where she used to live, but your hissy fit of now refusing to even collect her in an emergency just because you were called out being a shitty human being, slow clapping this up, you're the a-hole and a crappy parent. When your fiancé leaves you, and he will, you'll have no one because you abandoned the person that should have been your #1, your daughter. This whole post is disgusting. Way to fail completely as a parent. I feel sorry for you. Info: what is the issue with your fiancé? AITA: there are bigger issues here. Doesn't it say something when there are issues between your daughter and fiancé? Seems apparent you haven't been putting your daughter first, based on this post. And yes, it is childish. If you were picking your daughter up and taking her to your ex's house, it wouldn't have costed you anything. You could have asked them to chip in and pay for your trip there, etc. It would have been the nice thing to do. And yes, you are very childish and seem very bitter as you refuse to pick up your daughter after that. Mom of the Year award goes to you. Am I the antagonist for recording my female coworker without her permission? I know the title sounds bad, but hear me out. I 28 male have a female coworker 26F who likes to flirt with all of the men at work. My wife 24F knows about her and how I feel. Coworker stays away from me unless it's work related because I shot her down a few times and told her on Monday if she didn't knock it off I would report her 2 hours. Well, yesterday that coworker found my wife's social media and messaged her telling her that I'm a creep and won't leave her alone and that I tried to pay her for sex. I was honestly disgusted. I ignore her existence unless it's work related, and I couldn't believe the blatant lie she was telling. So today I go into work and have my phone in my hand and recorded our conversation. When I confronted her, I didn't show her face. The camera was facing the floor, so all that was shown was the shoes. After some back and forth, she admitted she was mad that I threatened hours and hoped my wife would force me to quit my job so I wasn't a problem anymore. So I took the recording and the messages 2 hours, and she was fired immediately. On the way out of the building she screamed at me that I was an asshole and a few other choice words for recording her without her permission and that she's suing me for it. Even a few coworkers said I was wrong for it and I should have just showed hours the messages and how she's a single mom and I just cost her kids their livelihood. So am I the antagonist? Edit to add: I appreciate all of your guys' concern about me actually getting into legal trouble. According to Google, Ohio, where I live in the US, is a one-party consent state. I have sent out a few inquiries to lawyers just to be safe, to see if she does have a case. If she were to try to go the legal route, I will keep everyone updated the more I find out, and if she does try to actually sue me. Now for the top comments. She cost her own kids her livelihood. As if hitting on you wasn't bad enough, but contacting your wife and potentially ending your marriage, that's a bridge too far. From your title, I was going to say something else, but definitely not the a-hole. She was trying to cost up his livelihood in the first place too. NTA. She brought that upon herself. She behaved like shit and now she has to face the consequences. You did absolutely right. And you have nothing to be scared of about that recording, lol. I was slightly concerned honestly. NTA. I love seeing liars receive their comeuppance. I was more relieved than anything. I always dreaded working with her. My eyes about blew out of their sockets when my wife sent the messages to me. She didn't believe her because I told her everything about what happened between the coworker and I. But if she did, my wife wouldn't have hesitated to leave me over it. Am I the antagonist for not wanting to talk to my ex-best friend anymore? When I am now 21, was in elementary, I met my best friend, F now 22. Her and I were inseparable, always hanging out and just having a very happy friendship. But it all started to shift when I had to move away for 2 years. But when I came back to my hometown, I met a friend of hers who was a religious person. I won't mention their religion, but let's say it is extremely strict and people tend to avoid them. We all started to hang out, and they were a really amazing person. We even got along together very well. But then it happened. They invited us both to a gathering of their church. They said it would be a casual gathering and that we would have fun. So naturally, we both agreed I couldn't stay. What they talked about went so against my ideas and own beliefs that it made me uncomfortable. But my best friend thought otherwise. Because over the course of time, they began to go more and more to church, and soon, they were a full member. The boiling point was when I asked them to send me a pic of Harley Quinn's hammer for a costume I was making. And they said no, because violence is against God's idea. We argued and soon she said this is why I've been distancing myself. Because you're everything that's wrong. Your views and above all, because you're gay at that time. I had only came out as gay to her and a few others. That broke me, because she said I was wrong, and I was what God thought was wrong about the world. So that is when I decided to block her. That was in 2015. Now it's 2022. She's still in the church. Kay thinks she's even like a big member, and she reached out to me trying to meet up. But I said no, and reminded them that to her and her God, I'm what is wrong in the world, and told her that I won't waste her time when she could be on her knees, screaming and crying in the name of her God. She had a meltdown, calling me demonic, and saying how much of an evil asshole I was for saying that about her religion. Maybe I was an asshole for insulting her religion and beliefs, but she insulted me and my being after all our years of friendship. So am I the a-hole? Peas. That religious friend of ours is now against the religion and is gay now. Now for the top comments. No, you're not the a-hole. She's been brainwashed by religion and actively despises who you are because of it. It would be insane for you to keep being friends with her. She almost certainly thinks she can change you. If she didn't, she wouldn't have responded with such utter vitriol that just oozes with how much she and her religion loathe homosexuality. Most definitely not the a-hole. If your way of insulting her religion is just existing, you can't do anything about that, lol. Good for you for moving on. Forget she exists and live with a clear conscience. Please do not blame yourself. You are not the a-hole. Your friend has been brainwashed. You did what you had to do to protect your mental health and not be affected by her negativity. I do not blame you for choosing not to talk to her anymore because of this, and I would have done the same in your situation. I commend you for making this brave move and moving forward despite losing that friend. You can mourn the end of that friendship, but be proud of yourself that you did the right thing for yourself. Am I the antagonist for telling my ex-wife that I don't want our son to stay overnight at her place? So my ex-wife and I have been divorced now 9 years. Since our divorce, she and her partner have housebounced numerous times. Without my son, he's 12, there they have 4 people living in 2-bedroom apts. Last year they upgraded to a 3-bedroom. My son recently stayed overnight at her place. She didn't want him last year there due to COVID. He got home and said straight up, I don't want to go back. I pressed and finally got an answer on why. Seems that they don't have a bed for him, so he sleeps on a military cot, a sleeping bag and then blankets. I was furious, but I wanted to give her the benefit, so I called her and asked about it. She admitted it, said he'd have to sleep on it for the foreseeable future as the master is her and partner's. Bedroom 1 is for the kid she had with partner, younger than my son. Bedroom 2 is for her mom. In the 2 bedrooms, mom would sleep on the couch. In the 2 bedrooms, before she had bunk beds for the kids. Now my son is forced to sleep on a cot. When I confronted her about that, she said her daughter needs a room of her own. I told her straight up, until she had an actual room and bed for him, he doesn't want to spend the night and I wouldn't make him. So she can see him for a day and then drop him off home. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA. Growing up, when I went to my mom's, I never had a bed. Ever. I always resented that my siblings that lived with her full time had rooms and beds, and that I got stuck on the couch or floor every other weekend. It really is unfair to a child, and it makes them feel like they deserve less. AITA. PPL saying he can just sleep with his grandma or on the couch. Maybe he doesn't want to and wants to sleep at his house where he has an actual bed. That's really not too much to ask for. And having more kids or marrying someone with kids does not give you an excuse to literally not have a bed for your child. I feel like this is really hard for PPL who haven't been through it to understand, but I'm not sure why. No one wants to not have a bed. Same. Why is this common? My brothers were full brothers too, so I never got why I didn't get my own bed. Not that half-sibling favoritism rubbish is ever justified. Okay, gonna answer some questions here, and then if anyone has any to ask me, please go ahead. 1. My son lives with me. I have primary custody. Our custody paperwork, she can have him up to 3 weekends or no. Then 1 to 2 months for the summer. Both of those have gone out the window cause of her choice to not see him as much. 2. I brought up the different sleeping arrangements during our call. She said it was stupid to make his half-sister or her mom sleep anywhere else just cause of him. 3. CS. Well, this one is a sore subject with me and many of my coworkers and friends. You see, when she and I split, I was the breadwinner, but also the main person my son was around. I got him up, got him to school, fed him and put him to bed. Bedtime is a whole other story. Why I was given primary. At the time she was working part-time, so was given a $250 a year CS payment. She would get better jobs. When I would apply for more CS, she'd quit. This went on 4 years until finally I gave up. She now makes more than I do per hours. I work more hours so make more money. She is currently 4 years behind on CS. I'm not keeping him from her due to this. People using kids to worm CS money from the other parent piss me off, cause I want him to have a relationship with her. NTA, the most important person here is your son. If he says he does not want to sleep there, then he absolutely should not have to. His comfort supersedes your ex-wife's feelings about it. Way to go, dad, for advocating for your son instead of telling him to suck it up. I hope that things work out and she can get him a proper bed/room. Am I the antagonist for turning away a busload of grannies? My wife and I, 34 male, live in a lovely old farmhouse, dated as far back as 1624, at the edge of our village. Our entire street neighborhood consists of the same kind of farmhouses. Most of them, including ours, are protected landmarks. This part of the village is quite lovely with elder thatched roof farmhouses dotted around with meadows in between. So naturally tourists love it. There are numerous hiking and cycling routes going past our home. I think I've ended up in a lot of families' vacation photo albums while working in the garden. But that's okay. It's what you can expect when buying such a property. Yesterday I heard our dog barking, and she wouldn't stop. So I went to check it out. I found a literal busload of elderly, around the age of 70, walking all over our garden, and looking in through our open door. I was quite surprised. So I asked if I could help them. Oh no, we are just looking about. It turned out it was some kind of group outing that had lunch in the restaurant nearby and were taking a stroll before moving on with the bus. So I told them this was private property and asked them to leave, to which they responded, but there is no access forbidden sign. So I asked her if she had such a sign on her driveway. Of course the answer was no. For clarity, I live in northwestern Europe. Access forbidden signs on domestic properties are really uncommon, especially when you're within a town, and basically say I'm a hermit and don't like social interaction. To make matters worse, while I was trying to herd the people from my property, a woman from the group come up the driveway and tripped on a wire we have across the driveway to keep the dog on our property. She had a wound on her chin, so I took her inside to get cleaned up and put a band-aid on the wound. When I walked her out, about 10 minutes later or so, they were still muttering how inhospitable I was, etc. I don't think it's weird to turn away strangers walking through your garden, but a busload of grannies seem to think otherwise. Am I the antagonist? PS. Please don't get into the legal side of things. American laws and customs don't apply here. There is absolutely no way I'm responsible for the wound of the lady that fell. There will be no suing whatsoever. Now for the top comments. NTA. They had no right to be on your property or refused to leave when asked. You did more than you were obliged to in cleaning up the wound. Imagine a bunch of grannies arrested for trespassing. NTA, good grief, the entitlement. That's your property. It's not a national heritage site for people to explore. I live rurally in England. My house is in a field that backs into the woods. A few people have fucked up by walking round a farmer's field thinking they can get into the woods. You can't. There's a huge dike that, unless you're an Olympic athlete, you ain't jumping and end up pushing through the hedge and onto my drive. I'm relatively polite and point out this is private property and they need to move off. Most apologize and run along. You get the odd one who get arsy about trespass laws etc. until I point to the giant private property trespassers will be prosecuted sign and ask if the police should handle this instead. I'm torn about putting up a sign. I think it doesn't have a friendly vibe to it, and I'm not sure if it works on the people who need it most. When we bought the property it basically looked like a public parking lot, and we had a lot of trespassers. So we hired a landscaping architect, and we overturned the outside area completely. We have a small driveway with different color stones and a mailbox right at the public road. I think it's quite clear it's a domestic property, but apparently there are still people who are kind of oblivious to that. I'm not sure if those people would notice a sign.